Morning, colleagues. Welcome to our 11th Sadc experts meeting. Okay, we are here this morning, today, as part of the annual conference, which officially started yesterday, for the 11th Sadc experts meeting. You've got the program in front of you, but I will just project it for those who did not receive the program, for us to go through the program, and then we will start the meeting. The meeting will be chaired by Professor Mikeka, who is the current chair for the sector, the current chair for science and technology, but also since Malawi is the chair for Sadc currently. So Professor Mikeka, I'll be supporting him as he chairs this meeting and take us through the various agenda items. So this is the program for the day, colleagues. So we just to say that we'll be had the official opening yesterday, which was the 1st of December. Hope some of you will manage to attend some of the sessions yesterday, but the conference itself is continuing parallel to this meeting and continues tomorrow. So we encourage you to also attend the sessions tomorrow and the sessions this afternoon, since our session will end at 3 o'clock, because we want to allow you to also attend the conference. We'll have some welcome remarks from the chair, who's also going to be chairing the proceedings of today. And then we'll have some recap on what we discussed last year and some expected outcomes from the meeting. And then we have a progress report from Dr. Sithole on the implementation of the Sadc Cyber Infrastructure Framework and the various programs. And then we'll have an update, a short update on the establishment of the Sadc Center of Excellence on ICT. And then we were supposed to have a presentation from UNECA. I'll follow up if they are still, if they have confirmed, because I was waiting for them to come back, but I'll follow up with them as the meeting is proceeding to see, will they be able to join us on that item. Then we'll have a tea break at 10 o'clock, a 30-minute tea break. And then after the tea break, we'll get an update and next steps on the project, which we're implementing on weather and climate. As you know, we successfully won a project through the South African Weather Service together with other member states, where they got a grant and they were implementing this grant with various countries. And Dr. Mary Jane will just give an update, but also a recap, because there are new people also that have joined this meeting, such as Professor Mikeka, who is new to the group, since he's the newly appointed director for science and technology in Malawi at the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. So it would be good just to give some background for Professor Mikeka, also to appreciate the project, since he is new to the group. And then we'll have a status on the open and distance learning presentation, just to see what are the implications for cyber infrastructure. We've requested Mr. Stein and Professor Oosthuizen. We also hope that they will join us. And then we'll have an update on the NRENs. As we know, a number of countries are establishing what we call the National Research and Education Networks, also as part of the Ubuntu Net Alliance, but also we'll get some update also from Nikis from South Africa. Then we'll have a lunch, which is a very short lunch, 45 minutes, because we'd want to finish our program early to allow you to attend the other sessions of the conference. And then lunch will be at 12 to 12:45. At 12:45, we'll resume and look at the updates from member states. We'll get reports, 10-minute update reports from member states. Those who have presentations will present, and those will give us update, but 10 minutes each member state, just to give us an update of where they are in terms of implementing the various programs, in terms of high performance computing, capacity building initiatives, and the various infrastructures. Then we'll look at the work plans. As you know, that in Birchwood, the last physical meeting where we met face-to-face was in 2019. because last year also we met virtually, but in 2019, you'll recall at the Birchwood meeting in Johannesburg, we established a number of working groups or subcommittees that had to work on various work plans in the different thematic areas. So we'll just recap and see where we are in terms of that together with the governance structures. Then we'll look at the roadmap out of this meeting. What are the actions we need to take out of this meeting as part of the actions of this 11th meeting? And then the next meeting, we meet again next year in 2022. As you know, this is an annual standing meeting that we have in December. May I ask if there are any other additions to the program and ask that we adopt the program? Can we go, if there are no any other additions, can we go for a motion of adoption? I'd like to hand over at this point now to Professor Mikeka, who's going to officially open the meeting, but also officially welcome all of us. And then I will say some few remarks. In fact, I've said them already, but then I will go straight into the next item after Prof has opened the meeting and said his remark. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Anneline, and I'm just hoping that now I could be allowed to appear on video because it was not the case. I could be switched on video. My cameras are safe. I think it would be great. As it is here, it says your video cannot be activated, so I think it lies on the IT that side. But anyway, I'll take it off. I would like to say good morning and welcome to 2021 virtual meeting, which has two critical acronyms, which I saw of great interest. Number one is it's National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System, NIC, where we have seen few member states of Sadc having established that, and some others, conceptualizing the same. And then secondly is what also we see as a key critical nomenclature of CHPC, so the Center for High Performance Computing. And this is something else today we should be engrossed with and having interaction around. So NIC and HPC, CHPC are the central key acronyms which I find to be of use today. And while we are starting the meeting, I observed that we actually, I noticed that we were 47, now we're 46. I would like to welcome each one of us, as we've been requested to put our nationalities pre to our names. But I think we also have time maybe just to quickly introduce ourselves later. Let me make a statement as we officially open this. We need to be reminded of the chronology of events with respect to cyber infrastructure aspects. The joint ministerial meeting of Education, Training, Science and Technology and Innovation during their meeting in June 2016 in Botswana approved the Sadc cyber infrastructure framework, which was also subsequently endorsed by the Sadc ministers responsible for communications and ICT in October 2016 in Eswatini. In June 2018, the ministers approved the implementation plan for the framework to guide implementation of the regional cyber infrastructure project. And I think without this implementation plan, there was no way we would have seen member states like South Africa, having solid, plausible, formidable cyber infrastructure projects like the NIC, where today I think we'll be exposed to several of the outputs and outcomes, linked also to the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research at UNECA in Pretoria. And I would like to say that it is very critical for Sadc to have this kind of conversation today and also going forward, because data data value, data monetization, and cross-border data flow are some of the critical issues every nation in the world needs to consider seriously. In fact, there is, I would say, more or less a war battle around data. As far as the future of digital economy and data capital are concerned, this is of greatest value. This pertains to the global politics around the value of data and cross-border data flow and its regulation. Currently, only 2 nations through their global corporations or directly are dominating in and benefiting from data and data flow. Most countries, particularly Sadc member states, are only producers of raw data with no infrastructure and human capital to benefit from the digital intelligence harvested from their own data. No nation does have the capability to contain the dominance and monopoly of these global corporations. Therefore, I would like to conclude this statement as we open that there is need of regional cooperation or cooperation. And it is for this reason that we propose that Sadc needs to have its own first-tier cloud built strategically with capacity to advantageously engage with the rest of the world on the future of data and digital economy and data capital. And Sadc needs more control over its own data. I think that to deliberations, conversations, presentations, technical criticisms that will be raised today from the membership or participants, 47 I see here, and plus those who will be joining us, we should be able to see direction towards it. And as Anneline did mention, as we conclude, we need to come up with key declarations, resolutions, not verbal, which can actually give guidance regarding how we move forward as Sadc region as an economic bloc of great importance. We have seen this happening in the past few days, how Sadc has been affected with certain decisions beyond the region. I think having spoken to this effect, I would like to officially declare that the meeting is open, and perhaps I would like to have liaison with Anneline if we can proceed to have just a quick 10-20 seconds self-introduction of participants if they have a mic switched on capability. If not, then I think their names and appended countries would be adequate, and then we would have to move straight to the program with the next speaker. Anneline, please do guide if it is possible to have a voice from each of the member states or not. Over to you, Anneline.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. I think it will be a bit of a challenge because we need to activate each one to speak. Okay, they can unmute themselves. Okay, so they can talk. So we can start. Welcome, Mr. Stein. We can start with Botswana, and then we follow through Botswana, Lesotho, Namibia. Try to follow the alphabetical order of the member states. So we can start with Botswana or Angola, if Angola is here.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, also Chairman, Tiamo Motsawa, University of Botswana, representing Botswana. Thank you.
Thank you. Other colleagues from Botswana? Okay, Lesotho. Okay, we can have Malawi.
Thank you, Anneline. I'm Michael Zimba from Malawi, representing Mzozo University, and thanks to the chair for that opening remarks.
Thank you. Any colleagues from Malawi?
Thank you. This is Bennett Kankuzi from Malawi, but representing the Malawi University of Science and Technology. Thank you.
Other colleagues from Malawi? We just have that. Okay. We can go to Namibia. Okay, please, if you're from Malawi, please speak. Lesotho says they don't have the unmute button. So I'm not sure a webcast if all the participants can speak, because Lesotho was not able to speak. They've posted on the chat, even Namibia. Yeah, they've posted on the chat. I'm trying to keep up with all the chats that are being posted. So we've got it's Let's Again, and that's from Lesotho. And then we still have the French guy who's still struggling, Kizito, so they'll sort you out, Kizito, and then there's Namibia, Shava. There's Professor Shava from Namibia, also can't unmute. And then we also have Singh. Sorry, while everybody's being promoted to panelists, I think we'll come back to the through you, Chair. We'll come back to the introductions, if that's fine, Chair.
That's Anneline, that's fine, and please invite the next speaker to take the podium gladly, and we can redeem that. Yeah, we have a break at 10. But for now, we can take the second speaker.
Okay, so we'll be guided by you, Chair. So you are chairing the meeting for today. So you'll direct us, and I'm there just to support you. So thank you, Chair. I won't give my remarks because I think I did give some remarks at the beginning. I'll just go straight into our meeting, just to recap our meeting, which we held last year, which was also a virtual meeting. So just to quickly recap, we'll come back to the introductions later, as we indicated, due to while we allow everybody to be promoted to panelists. So our meeting for last year was also a virtual meeting due to the issues of COVID. We were not able to convene. Normally we convene physically during the margins of the conference, which is the annual conference on high performance computing, which is hosted by South Africa through the Department of Science and Innovation. And at the time it was called through the Center for High Performance Computing, who are the hosts of the annual conference. But then ministers adopted, I think as far back as 2016, to say that we need to annually host this event alongside the annual conference on high performance computing. So last year, we also had a one-day meeting. Normally we have it over 2 days if we are meeting physically, but because of the virtual nature, we have decided to only have a 1 day till we go back to normality, where we'll have our normal 2 days of the meeting. So we looked at the report from the update on where we are in terms of rolling out of cyber infrastructure in the region as per the framework. That update was given by Dr. Sithole, who is going to give a similar update later today, just to say where we are. We also had a guest speaker, Mr. Davis Adinho, from the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development for Data, who spoke about the importance for data in responding to COVID. And we had a presentation on the open and distance learning and the implementations of COVID from the UNESCO chair on multimodal learning and open educational resources, Professor Jaco Olafir, who gave a presentation to us during the meeting last year. We then had the presentations from the country updates in terms of where we are, in terms of their rollout. And I really look forward to the country updates. It's always exciting to see what the countries are doing and what projects they're engaged in. We also looked at the issues of NRENs and high performance computing. We looked at the case of Mozambique, which was presented by Mr. Lourinho, We looked at the case of Namibia, which was presented by Professor Singh, who is also, Professor Derham rather, who was representing Professor Singh, because Professor Singh couldn't be with us, but Professor Derham did the presentation on behalf of Namibia. And then we had Zambia by Mr. Steyn, and then Dr. Stolle presented South Africa. So we looked at those case studies in terms of how high performance computing infrastructures were repurposed and the NRENs in responding to COVID-19. And we looked at how member states were using those infrastructures and repurposing them in responding to COVID-19. Quite interesting case studies that we heard from the 4 countries. We also had an update from Dr. Mary Jane on the weather and climate project that was being implemented. I think the project has now come to an end. So she'll give us the update today, but also some background on what the next steps are in taking forward of the project. And then we had the recap on the governance structures, which was done by the Secretariat. And then also we got an update from Botswana in informing us that Botswana is in the process of establishing their NREN, which is the National Research and Education Network. And that was presented by Dr. Tsiamo, who gave us an update on Botswana's progress in that regard. Similarly to what we are going to do today, we also looked at the roadmap and action plan in terms of the preparations for this meeting of 2021. So that's just a brief recap, Chair. We will circulate the report, a draft report to everybody from last year's proceedings in terms of the key items that were discussed. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Anneline, for that report, and also for the promise that the same will be shared to experts and senior officials here present. Now I wanted to recognize Ruana Bunda. Your hand was raised, but you can lower it as we have been advised that we will be promoted appropriately for introductions at a later time. For now, we can lower our hands, but also now audit. In this session from 8:30 to 10, we have on our schedule a program which we should all have, but it's online. We have 3 speakers. We had Anneline. And make sure that also we on the language we
em termos de línguas, nós também temos aqui as várias línguas que
we only speak English.
Nous entendons le portugais.
There are language options, so I think that we need to make sure that we are able to do the settings. So there is language interpretation, and we choose original for English, or we can go for English and appropriately. I wanted to just make that come. All right. So Anneline has given us the background and what happened in the past. Next is Dr. Hape Sithole, who will take us to the updates and overview of a few aspects, including the high performance computing, which was referred to by Anneline. After Dr. Hape Sithole, we'll have Dr. Mactar Seck, and I just want to confirm, is Dr. Mactar Seck in? If I can see your hand up or your voice, just to confirm that we are lined up.
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that, Chair. If he's not joined us yet, we will skip that and come back to it. But I'll just follow up with him. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
All right, perfect. So now I would like to invite Dr. Hape Sithole, if you can make your presentation now. And I think after this presentation and Matt's presentation, we would like to invite interventions. Before we go for break at 10, we can have comments and questions. So we'll have these 2 presenters, and then we need to ask questions, critique anything we have to, and you know, also make positive comments to approach or comment the way done. Thank you. Over to you, Hape Sithole.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Let me just confirm if you can see my slides, Chair.
Confirmed everything is proper. Your video and your slides are perfect. Over.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, colleagues, all the member states represented here. We would like to welcome you to this session. As South Africa is hosting, I know that the Secretariat has already welcomed you to the session, so we'll formally welcome you to the program of our conference. And we always, looking forward to hosting you. As the Secretariat has already indicated, it has been 2 years we've been virtual, and we missed that time to welcome you to South Africa. So what I'm going to do is to just give you the progress report, and chairperson here looking at the Sadc cyber infrastructure activities. There is a number of things that I will go through, and I have added some few slides now, taking advice from the Secretariat that we are having some new participants here, so who might not have a clear understanding of the program. So I will try to touch on the history a little bit. So I'll try to be quicker. So first of all, we have gone and named this activity the Sadc cyber infrastructure. And Sadc cyber infrastructure started off initially, their collaboration was more around high performance computing. So this was a Sadc high performance computing framework. And then later on, we have moved this to cyber infrastructure. And the reason for this, Chair, is that we came to realize that as we are developing activities on high performance computing, there are a number of things which are interrelated that needs to be taken into consideration. And what you see now on the slide here is that when we have got high performance computing systems, you will also have, for an example, in this case, connectivity that is required to reach those high performance computing. Hence, the end-runs became very important. But at the same time, again, when we have got this, you also have got data that you need to move around. Hence, we agreed that the whole system should be looked at as the Sadc cyber infrastructure, so that all these three entities are interlinked. So that is the background on that. So coming to the progress, Chairperson, is that there has been activities, and I will start off with meetings and engagements that took place in the region. For an example, we had the Sadc senior officials and ministers responsible for science and innovation and education. This was held on the 14th to the 16th of June, 2021. And in that meeting, the progress was reported on the infrastructure and the human capital developments, including research and development and innovation outputs. And the senior officials and the ministers commended the progress. And through the Sadc Secretariat, there has also been a successful meeting to discuss plans for high performance computing, which was held now on the 25th of November 2021 in Malawi, Lilongwe, with the representatives from the Department of Education in Malawi. This was during the 5th Sadc Industrialization Week, and I'm told that that meeting went very well. Malawi brought in people who are interested in the developments in high performance computing, and we're looking forward for the development and deployment of a HPC in Malawi. The other meetings which have been held has mainly been virtual meetings, and these were conducted, and we had the meetings with Tanzania, DIT, Botswana, Lesotho, Kenya, Nakosti, and we have got, these were all regarding HPC systems. We included there the Kenya because of the relationship that SADC has with other 2 countries outside SADC due to the square kilometer area, and others has been mainly locally. So there has been significant interaction even during the pandemic, and meetings have been taking place virtually. The other thing that I would like to report, Chairperson, is that in the past, we were just talking about the infrastructure, we were talking about meetings, but I would like to say that we have really moved now from just talking about infrastructure and training. There are tangible outputs in terms of research. And I don't want to steal the thunder here from Dr. Mary Jane, who will be talking more in details about this program. But we are very proud of what is happening around the climate modeling, that we also have got publications now that are coming out from this collaboration. And Dr. Mary Jane is going to talk more about this part. The other thing that I can also reflect here, Chairperson, is that we have got active research programs that are taking place. And these are like, we can be able to look at this from the utilization of the HPC systems by SADC member states in South Africa. And this, we track on this utilization. And you can see here on the slide, Chairperson, that we have got various countries. If you look here, from Namibia, Mauritius, Botswana, Swaziland, Angola, we have got programs that have been registered in South Africa. I've just picked up the synopsis here, but and we have got in this case the institutions from those countries, mainly from the universities in SADC. These are the names of the PIs. Some of them will be doing the presentations during this meeting. And the interesting thing again is that these people come from various disciplines. So basically we have got various disciplines around SADC countries. So there is an uptake of high performance computing. And also very important is the type of programs that are there. For an example, if you look at this, programs in solar materials, and you can look at the variety of the programs, engineering, physics, and also on behavior of complex systems. And again, on the COVID-19, there has also been some work that is being done by the SADC countries. So I can say that the growth in the uptake of cyber infrastructure is visible, and it is visible in very important areas that will be able to propel SADC to utilize these systems effectively. As our vision when we started this program, that we want cyber infrastructure to assist SADC to be able to address socio-economic challenges that we see. And I can say that with this progress, Chairperson, we see that there is light down the tunnel, and definitely it's not a train coming. It is real light. And I would like now to go into the infrastructure side. Also in this side, some of the new interactions that have been taking place, the new shipment that we have done in the Sadc region is with Lesotho, and currently we are finalizing the implementation and the operation. The colleagues from Lesotho that are here, Media Getseng is around, and I take that she will be talking more around that. And there has been also additional storage that have been sent to a number of SADC sites, for an example, Botswana, Mozambique, Namibia, and there, Zambia and Tanzania. And this, we procured additional infrastructure, in this case, together with South African Weather Services. to support the member states in having data storage systems. And also we have been working on getting into commercial partners. This is one of the things that the ministers indicated that would like to see industry using this. And I'm happy to report here that in this case, we have had the commercial entity here from Namibia, FFT, and we were helping them with the FFT technologies, inputting the code, including also using one of our commercial packages, which is ANSYS. So basically, this is one of the things that we like to encourage, to get countries to be able to have commercial entities utilizing high performance computing, because it is only that when we have got companies using high performance computing, data science, that we can see improvement in our economies. And when we have got improvement in our economies, then we will have better life for people in SADC countries. And I can just also report that in terms of the infrastructure in South Africa, the HPC system has been running close to 100%. You might have heard about some load shedding issues. That does not affect us very much. We still provide 50% of the system, but basically the service of high performance computing is happening 365 days a year and throughout. And they have been used by the various programs in this case, including supporting COVID-19 projects. I can also report, Chair, that the cloud computing adoption is increasing. We do have got the capability that we are also extending to the SADC countries. The Chair will recall that during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had support from Intel and Dell, where they gave us some additional hardware, and that additional hardware was to be able to support access to SADC member states to have access to cloud computing. So this is now fully functional, and member states are encouraged to utilize that. I put in this slide as an addition. I know that most of the colleagues might have seen it, but Chair, in this, it is more the strategy that we have been using on ensuring that we can be able to get infrastructure to member states who don't have their own infrastructure. And what we are reporting in terms of the infrastructure going there, this is through the strategy where we use the HPC systems that are retiring. These HPC systems, they retire, but they are still very useful. And we take them and we divide them into smaller units. We repurpose them. Through this, we are able to help train people to be able to manage these systems, because one thing that we want to do is to make sure that there is sustainability. So we train system administrator, and after training system administrators, we bringing in people to use this HPC system. So this slide is just to recap from what we have presented before, just for the colleagues who have joined, who might not be aware of this system. And I would like to emphasize, we are very cautious that we only distribute systems that still have got useful life, because we don't want to be promoting e-dumping. So these are the systems that are useful, and we have seen that they are being utilized for processing and doing meaningful work in the member states. This is just a map that shows you the coverage now of the SADC countries where you have got these colors, where we already have got HPC systems. You will see outside the SADC, we do have got both Ghana and Kenya there, and this is through the relationship with our square kilometer array. Just to indicate what I have just indicated, in this SADC countries, what we are doing, first thing, we deploy the infrastructure, we train system administrators. You will see the ticks here. It shows that this has already taken place. And these are the number of countries, like in SADC, we've got Mauritius, Namibia. This slide will be able to be updated because now we've got Lesotho, and very soon we'll be having some program taking place in Malawi. And after that, what we also look red here is the projects, and we are looking at ensuring that there are projects. It's not just infrastructure, but we have got projects taking place. What I have already reported, you can see that there are projects in various areas that are taking place there. And here we also track on the status of the hardware so that we don't have something just sitting. We still have got some challenges, and it's only here in Madagascar. And because of the COVID-19, we haven't been visiting Madagascar, but there has been training taking place there, but there are still some issues that needs to be resolved. But largely, everything is taking place. I am going to use this opportunity also just for an example with the NRAN, just to report what is happening in South Africa. I know that the colleagues will be reporting from the NRANs in the various member states. In South Africa at the moment, we have got our network connectivity around the country, all institutions connected, and this is 100 gig. Yeah, before it was 10, so it's 10 times that capacity. We also building some of the network. For an example here, this is the area in Canovan to connect the square kilometer array, where you see the brown here. Let me just try and get this to be a pointer so that it doesn't disturb. So this is the Canovan where we are building. Some of this brown here, this is still the links that we are sorting out, but largely you can see that the whole country, all the institutions have been connected. But what we also investing in, Chairperson, is to be able to connect across the countries, so international connectivity. And this international connectivity, that is the one that will be able to be used once we now looking at the SADC countries to be able to connect. The idea here is that we build the entrance in our respective countries, but then after that, we need to get the cross-country connectivity so that we can be able to share the data and share expertise. I would also like to maybe use this, that at the moment, you know, in South Africa, we have got 1.6 petaflops, and we are in a process of deploying a system that will be 4 times that capacity. And we're looking at that system to have, by 2025, to have 10 times the capacity that we have at the moment. I did talk about the OpenStack, Chairperson, and this is the cloud. We're not just deploying the infrastructure, we also have got the capabilities, and we will be happy to share with the member states on building OpenStack so that we can have the real workforce to be able to build these clouds around SADC. Lastly, Chairperson, I'd like to touch on the training programs. As I indicated, we have got various training programs, but what I can at high level report is that we see the increase in SADC students in the cluster and cybersecurity challenges, which is something that we put in the past, so that we want to see these developments also in SADC, and we have seen these numbers going. We have had training programs even during COVID, because largely we have moved most of the training programs online. So training programs have been taking place. We have had focused training programs, for an example, with Lesotho, and since we have deployed the system there, and there were a number of training programs there. I will leave that there to the Lesotho colleagues to talk about. This is just to show you online training programs that are there. Researchers and scientists from member states can be able to have access to this, go through the training at their own pace. Everything is available online. There are videos, and there is also support that you are able to get. So basically, the training programs cover all these areas. We've got the research support. Let's say it's a researcher wanting to do some research. Let's take here is computational fluid dynamics or climate modeling. We will link that researcher with a specific person that will assist that researcher. We have got summer schools, winter schools. These are overall training that are looking at the basics of high performance computing. And as I said, we have got the cluster, student cluster challenges. These are the students building the supercomputers and also students training in cybersecurity. And lastly, this one on the HPC ecosystems, where we deploy the system and we train people and we bring in users in there. So this defines the overall training programs. Little bit about those you can see, for an example here. This will be introduction to scientific computing, parallel programming, and effective cluster usage. I talked about the cybersecurity. When we build this cyber infrastructure, one thing that is important is that cybersecurity is very key. And this program here, which is currently running, and you will see that there is also Sadc member states who are participating in here. And we have got, in this case, these are the numbers for 2017. You can see 350. And this year, I think that the number would have changed. And these are the contacts for the colleagues. So it is encouraging that we have got Sadc member states participating. The only area that is still taking place and we don't have the Sadc member states is on the datathon. This is also now the challenge is taking place now, and we would like to see introduction to the Sadc member states. This one here is the student cluster challenge on the high performance computing. And you can see in South Africa, this covers most of the institutions. But what is pleasing here is, if you look here, these are the Sadc member states who have participated this year. We've got Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe. So most of the countries are participating in this. And lastly, these are the training programs that are linked with the astronomy, which is DARA. And you can see also member states participating in here. With that, Chairperson, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to give this report. And I have also saved time, because when we talk about the member states reports, then South Africa has already given its report, Chairperson. So we can save that time there and provide that time to the other member states. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Happy Sithole. I'm overwhelmed. I mean, like the way you saved time, but also covered the whole scope. I've noted 7 key aspects, and I would like to come through these and invite the participants so that they are not idle. We have 60 participants here to ventilate, to engage a bit, so that at least we can be inviting the next speaker in this session, who should have been Dr. Mactar Seck, but will be replaced by Dr. Shiamo. And I'll just invite Dr. Shiamo to be preparing, but I would like to ventilate before we go to Dr. Shiamo. So be on stack there. You are an open stack, Dr. Sithole, and we noticed that you've given us a key progress. We we have spoken on the need for connectivity and therefore leveraging on the work of the National Research Education Network, NRENs, in also most of the Sadc countries. You have highlighted the key outputs of the work of the cyber infrastructure, including the high performance computing, which is of course producing publications. We hope that these are Scopus index publications, high quality peer reviewed, with citations on Google Scholar. You have highlighted the issues of active research programs, which is very interesting. And I think this one you are inviting the new member states like Malawi and several others in the Sadc region to register today or tonight and begin to play on the platform or on the cluster, even mount some programs as we have seen examples. And I think there are some fields which are missing in there. You have connected that one to the possibility and potential for student training programs and cluster competitions, which is very important that I think member states here can also leverage. Lastly, I've seen that you have emphasized that the HPC should not be reserved to universities or confined to institutions. It must be liberalized and democratized to industry. That research, like for example, designing of cars, car manufacturing, can happen on the track, and issues of non-destructive testing, where hard body bumped onto the other can be worked out on such a cluster. You have highlighted that, including applications to health for COVID, contact tracing and related aspects, including I think gene sequencing for can possibly happen for what South Africa and Botswana has done recently, including medication. I think these are critical outputs. And lastly, you have looked at the distribution of systems that you are ready to offer, hardware infrastructure to member states, even those who do not have, including Malawi. And you are promising that this will not be obsolete, dirty infrastructure which you want to dispose of, like an e-disposal strategy. These still have a useful life and the potential for upgrade in terms of storage and computing power. I think you are emphasizing this, and we would like to have people to ventilate on you on this. On your nice map by Anneline, there was the issues of dark fiber. You didn't tell us your plan for dark fiber, which was in green. We want to know what happens to the fiber that is not being used and being called dark fiber. But also wanted to look at what is the capacity. You have switched Meraka CSIR in Pretoria. Is it 10 gig, 100 gig, or what? So because I've seen that there's a lot happening in Meraka, including the TV watch space simulations and research related to that, if it to bring in more effective connectivity. These are just for members to recap and know that we are in line. But I want to invite, we have 19 minutes to 10. We'll give Dr. Shiamo 15 minutes. And therefore, these 5 minutes, I would like to invite members to ventilate 1 minute or 2 minutes, just ask questions, comments, or need for clarification or anything less like that. If you have an opportunity to do so, please do that. I'll switch off myself. Okay, I see Dr. Michael Zimba, Malawi. Please, you have the floor. I recognize you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to find out from Happy. He mentioned about some initiatives on cloud computing. I just wanted to find out as to whether that cloud is a private cloud, or maybe they're using the global platforms that are there. The second one is I want to find out what are the plans in terms of converging HPC with the big data and the other data-intensive computing. I think for the time being, those two are my points of curiosity.
Please take those two. I'll just add up. I do not see any hand up. Anyone who would like to intercept? Is Kiziko Bengere, are you interested to speak? Or maybe these are interpreters. Yeah, Kiziko is the interpreter. Any other interventions? It's important in a meeting of 60 that we have huge interventions than to be quiet. Do we let him squat, please? Okay, Dr. Happy Sithole, over to you.
No, thank you very much, Chair, for the comments that you have made. And I am pleased to see that you also have the same vision in terms of the high performance computing. And what I have articulated, and especially looking at the industry, I think this is very important because we want to be building this cyber infrastructure to improve the competitiveness of our region. And the competitiveness is not going to be there if we are only focusing on leaving this to academic sector only. Hence, it's very important that we bring in the industry. And when we bring in the industry, we have to also be very strategic. Look at the industry that is going to assist us to move forward as the region. So we see globally that the nations, they use this infrastructure for key strategic economic development. For an example, if we take countries like Germany, this infrastructure are mainly used in the auto manufacturing, and you can see the reliance of those auto manufacturing globally, and their reliability, and hence that helps them in their economic development, and mainly all in the engineering firms. You see in other countries like US, this being used, for an example, in Department of Energy, Department of Defense, and they make a lot of economic developments in those areas. In other countries now, these are going to overall high performance computing to areas of big data analytics. And I think with that, I would like to address the part of the question of Michael, that it is very important, and this is where we are going to make sure that now high performance computing is no longer that Ivy League of only the scientists and engineers. We see that high performance computing is needed. Say for an example in retail, to check on what is the shelf life of products, and how many people come, they look at this specific product. So retail uses this in terms of big data analytics. So you are right, Michael, that we need to see convergence in this area. And in South Africa already, we're pushing a lot towards that, and bringing in things like machine learning to be able to do this big data analytics. This is one of the things that is moving towards this convergence. But the other thing in the convergence is also on the configuration of these HPC systems and how they are designed, that we bring data closer to the processing, or also we bring the processing closer to where the data is. So computing at the edge is one of the things that we're looking at to make sure that we don't have to have overheads in moving the data before we can make sense out of it. So these are some of the things that are coming. I think you saw also yesterday in one of the keynotes that we had the ARM, which gave a keynote. And the main things that we are looking there is because of the lightweight processing architecture of ARM, we see that we will be able to fast track our move towards edge computing so that our big data analytics can comprehensively be able to be addressed. Maybe just to also look at your question on the cloud, Michael, we are talking here about OpenStack. OpenStack, it means that we put together the technology stack, and this technology stack mainly made out of open source, and we manage that stack ourselves. So this take away the overheads that you saw in the past on virtual platforms where you had to have licenses for VMs. So cloud computing in this case relieves you from those costs of the virtual machines because of OpenStack. But to be able to run OpenStack, it can only save you cost if you have the necessary skills to manage and to put together that OpenStack. So this is one thing that we have realized, and we have got a team that is putting together training programs on OpenStack and always doing research in those areas. So the OpenStack that we are talking about is not sitting on Azure or on AWS. This is OpenStack that we built. It is our private cloud. So we want to look at those and encouraging private clouds. And obviously, when the demands increase, people will still be able to burst into your Azure or AWS, but at least you've got the comfort in terms of your data having sitting in your own environment. So some data sovereignty becomes very important. And lastly, Chairperson, on the plans for the fiber, what you saw there is that we have got this fiber, it's 100 gig now, is the backbone that is going across the country. So the long haul backbone, everything is 100 gig. It was 10 gig, and that has increased, and it is all on that fiber. And what we are doing now is to finalize the connectivity now in the cities, what we call the metro links. And these metro links already exist, so we are refreshing them. But some of them, they were sitting at 1 gig, 10 gig. So we will be increasing them at least to 10 gig everywhere. And where we have got heavy traffic, those will be increased to 100 gig. Our strategy in this case is to use what is already available, which has been invested on our state-owned entities. Like for an example, your Transnet, Telkom, Eskom, Sandral. So we purchase capacity from those. Where there is no capacity, for an example, in the stretch coming from Canoven getting to Beaufort West, nobody has got fiber in there. So in that area, we dig and we put our own fiber, specifically for a big project like the square kilometer array. So this is what we're looking at. But the other thing that we are also considering here is that we want to be able to extend this as the last mile connection, especially when our researchers, and this is what we learned now during the pandemic, when the researchers are not in their campuses. They are connected when they are in their campuses, but when they're outside their campuses, you find that they're struggling with connectivity. So this is where we want to start looking at other modes of connectivity to at least link them to the network. And this is where we can be able to use other technologies like your TV white spaces. And in this case, we want to extend also our edge roam so that the federation of and access to these networks can be seamless. When you walk in, let's say for an example, closer to a post office, there could be some point of presence there, and the researchers can be linked with their credentials from the universities. This is something that we are still discussing and looking at it. because we have seen that it's not all the time that people will have to work from the campuses. People will work outside the campuses. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Dr. Happy Sitora. On Age Room, I'm happy to see Zambia. I think Zambia demonstrated this a couple of years back properly with all their campuses, Tito and Laura and others. I'll be commenting on this proper demonstration of deployment of education roaming capability through Zamre. No, I think this is good, and we clap hands for you, Dr. Happy Sithole. I'll be inviting Dr. Tiamo Moshegwa to share his screen, but also to begin to present. I'll give you your proper 15 minutes, so up to 10 after 10, we'll have been left with a bit of time for the team. Over to you, Dr. Tiam.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for your generosity with time. I think the discussions, can you maybe just check whether you can hear me?
Yes, and we can see your screen, so all is there.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Chairperson. I think just to thank you for your generosity of time, I think the conversations we're having here are very, very important, and to appreciate the detailed presentation that Dr. Sithole has given, providing the foundations of very good work that has been done for the past 10, 12 years with the very able leadership of himself and the exemplary leadership of the South Africans in this area, in terms of capacitating or helping capacitate not only themselves, but the regional member states, if only for the collective purpose and the projects that we are working on going forward, and for the collective regional imperative. So really, just to acknowledge the work that they are doing. But I also want to appreciate the presentation by Dr. Sithole, because it sets the foundation for the elevated conversation that we now have to have. We have the infrastructure, we have the community. What is it that you can do on top of all this infrastructure in the communities we're building? And there's a very strong argument, a tantalizing argument for the prospects of having a Pan-African platform for solving African problems by African scientists, and for them to also collaborate with the rest of the world in the advancement of science in the digital era. Very, very critical. Hence, this presentation in this forum to highlight what can be done and what is already been done towards this vision. Just yesterday at the South Africa Forum for Science Forum South Africa, there was a dedicated session on the UNESCO recommendations on open science. Very, very, very profound. It's a document that has gone through iterations, and it has been finalized in Paris in November with specific stipulations of how open science can be used, including for advancing, obviously, national and continental objectives through the enterprise of science. I took a few excerpts from that recommendations. You'll see them there. It provides definitions of what open science is. It provides the imperatives that could be addressed through open science. It also shows what countries need to do in order to effect those recommendations. So I really implore colleagues and member states who are here to look at that document and to share it with organizations and structures in their countries responsible for research, science, and technology, because it's got specific recommendations at various levels. So really a very, very profound document that I think has also had inputs from African member states, particularly about the challenges that are unique to Africa insofar as these issues of open science are concerned. I thought maybe out of interest, Chairperson, just to share very quickly the slides with colleagues for them to appreciate what this hullabaloo with open science is. It's not new, but it's becoming more and more relevant now that we have technologies to support science. But the main ethos is that of openness, making sure that the enterprise of science is open. The data that we produce with our science is made available openly to the extent possible. The access to literature, scientific literature, is equitable. We know how expensive it is to access scientific journals. And the whole culture of doing science should be open, such that issues like reproducibility are addressed. Issues about impact of science. How do we frame scientific problems such that at the very beginning, they're talking to the real impact, which what society expects. I think this is very, very important notion of open science. Of course, there are many definitions of open science, and indeed UNESCO has provided some. The opportunities and the whys of open science are also given there. I wouldn't want to dwell on them, but it's very critical to note that open science has already transformed a number of areas. Dr. Sithole ably talked of some of these issues or some of those areas in his presentation. But how tantalizing is it that if we organize our data and share it, not only in physical format, but also in machine readable formats, such that machines can engage that data to be able to harness the potential we have there. Very, very important. He mentioned the cloud environments that are being created. I think this is very critical because these are the foundations of open science. The issue of data that is fair to the extent that is findable, is accessible, it is interoperable, and is reusable. It's very, very critical. And of course, all these things will help foster, accelerate scientific advancement. I can dwell on this slide, but it shows clearly how open science can already address and affect the potential for Africa. Many, many areas. You talk about mining, you talk about ecology, you talk about Earth observation, you talk about our oceans and our coastlines. We talk about enhancing our collaborations in African scientists. We are fragmented, we are not collaborating enough. Through open science, we can do great things. Why is it that 50 years after independence, our universities cannot work at producing COVID vaccines? As a matter of fact, we acknowledge the very good progress made so far in South Africa and other universities, but this must be the norm across the continent. We should not be praying to other people to create vaccines for us. Our science enterprise must be so mature after 50 years to be able to do these things. And the open science fraternity, the open science movement can help us go there. The top right corner there, very, very critical. Young people in our universities, we should start indoctrinating and teaching them about the tenets of open science and how to do science in the 21st century. The whole world is moving this trajectory. The issue of having global open science platforms to solve global problems where we don't need to compete. We talk about climate change, we talk about infectious diseases, you talk about developing sustainable development goals. These are the platforms that we need in the world. But it goes without saying that we need to have these platforms in Africa and indeed in the member states to be able to connect to the rest of the world. And indeed, there are some very good examples in Europe where they're making strides in this area. Noting this, there was a very good initiative for 3 years that tried to scope out, do the baseline, and see where Africa is at regarding these matters. A landscape study was done along the dimensions of checking the status of policy that supports open science at national level, at institutional levels across the continent, because policy is very critical. Policy provides surety of how to do things and what can be done, obviously coupled with strategies for those policies. The issue of cyber infrastructure that Dr. Sithole has ably talked about, there was an exercise to see what has been done, and indeed the presentation that is given provided very good idea about the landscape in terms of infrastructure. The issue of training, there's a very big gap in Africa regarding our scientists, regarding how they can use data science, for example, how they can use research data management to be able to do better science. The issue of curricula at universities for science in this new dispensation. The issue of skills at various levels was also critical that needs to be assessed. The issue of culture. What is it about the culture in our research, science and technology and innovation ecosystem that we can change to steer it towards adopting open science as a norm? The barriers therein, the incentives. How do we incentivize researchers to publish not only their papers, but the data and also the intermediary research outputs and also their workflows, so that anybody who comes years later to look at their work can reproduce their work? Very critical. And there were some key findings that identified key findings for various dimensions. And outside or following the landscape study, there were some key frameworks that were developed to guide the member states and institutions regarding policy for open science and open data, the infrastructure side of things, the training and the incentives. So really, I dwelled on this slide because it provided a very good baseline that needed to be done to see where Africa is, and also to draw synergies with Dr. Sithole's presentation about the work that has been done in Sadc. Very good publication there regarding that particular report. Now, regarding the vision for open science platform for Africa, that platform, that Pan-African platform, a truly Pan-African platform that will bring us together, that will see us working together on projects that are of continental importance, but also obviously of national importance. The platform envisages seeing our African scientists being at the cutting edge, not being left behind, being at the cutting edge of contemporary data-intensive science, the science that will also drive societal imperatives, very critical. And the vision obviously sees us collaborating in Africa, but also addressing global challenges. And to do that, those 4 pillars are identified. And I'm glad Dr. Sithole made his presentation, because the Sadc region can showcase a way and share experiences what has already been done, especially on this federated network of computational facilities that Dr. Sithole ably talked about. We view a future where the African scientists do not have to go to war with a spear when the rest of the world is going to war with machine guns. We want to make sure that the African scientist is equipped. He's talented, but does he have the equipment? Does he have the infrastructure to be able to compete and collaborate? We think the federated network of these computational infrastructures that Dr. Sithole mentioned should be a norm. Should be a norm, should not be a barrier. Of course, coupled with the necessary services and software tools, policies, etc., etc. The second point is very, very critical. It's been alluded to. The Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Institute that is spanning and permeating our institutions to make sure that we equip our scientists to ably do their work, and we also obviously do the necessary training. The issue of those projects that we can work together on areas of continental importance. The African Union has got the Vision 2063 and the STISA documents that talks about the priority areas in Africa through which science can be used to effect them. We must come up with those projects that may be Africa-centric. If you look at indigenous knowledge, what is it that we are doing together as a continent to provide to the world in terms of what you already own? Do we have projects that we can work together as continental member states to work together? The last 2 points are also very critical. We must have network of skills and education, especially on data, so that we can effect the necessary capacity building. The last bullet is equally important. There must be a platform to allow us to collide and engage as stakeholders, whether it be policymakers, governments, institutions, NGOs, industry, a platform for dialogue in terms of open science. So very, very critical. And in terms of the implementation of the AOSP, is very critical, as you can imagine, to have a governance structure, to have an operational model that talks of how countries can engage through a coordinating body of African open science platform, the necessary stakeholder engagements to get the buy-in, to dispel the skepticism that collaboration cannot really happen according in Africa, to build a case, a business case for the African open science platform, to be able to make sure that it lands well with everybody in the continent. The necessary resource mobilization. Nowadays, we know that you need to put in the investment to be able to be in charge of your agenda. We are very grateful for the generosity over the years, over the centuries, over the decades from donors, but we have to agree that the member states in the continent must see value in terms of investing in the scientific endeavors. So it could be that as part of the African Open Science Platform, very key priorities, engaging our decision makers, engaging our governments to see value or convince them to see AOSP as a vehicle for effecting all those very good national visions for societal advancement through science. Application areas, very important, the project, the monitoring and evaluation regarding the African Open Science Plus, so that we learn of what is good and what is bad regarding its implementation. I had a few slides on some ideas of what can be done, but in the interest of time, I'll skip those and maybe share with the colleagues for later perusal. There will be some imperatives. There needs to be groundwork to be done. in terms of governance, operations, funding, and stakeholder engagement. It could be that we need to be pragmatic and realistic and deliberative about where to start. We definitely need to learn from other open science platforms, and we definitely need to know what every country is doing at this juncture. Very critical to engage in terms of governance and policy. We should look at all those already existing multilateral, bilateral collaborations that have been put on paper and effect them and implement them. Countries like South Africa and others have got very good white papers that talk about science and technology. And of course, we have the UNESCO recommendations that I just talked about. Funding is critical. If we are collectively working together as a continent through the African Open Science Platform, we are best placed to then access funding as a collective, because people are looking for critical mass in terms of multiply effect, in terms of the project that we do. So funding will be a key issue for that. Human capital development, Dr. Sithole mentioned it, and it's critical, especially in the issue of data. And there are some initiatives that have been going on for the past couple of years that is making inroads in terms of curricular development for these areas. Let's not forget industry. Companies are also very keen to develop curricula professionally and to engage universities as well in terms of molding future scientists regarding training. Dr. Sithole mentioned the work that has been done in Sadc at a continental level. I think we can learn a lot from what Sadc has done in terms of the Sadc cyber infrastructure framework. There must be alignments that are explained to motivate AOSP. And there are some very, very good lessons learned from Dr. Sithole's presentation in terms of repurposing those machines to come to the African continent. We listened to the presentation yesterday by Professor Felix Dakora, talking about the challenges they've had at an African Academy of Sciences level, trying to get some of this equipment. And Dr. Sithole's work and the regional work can share some lessons continentally on some of the things we've learned and some of the good things and bad things and the difficult things we had to go through. Having said that, colleagues, for African Open Science Platform to succeed, there must be very strong national initiatives at a national level. I'm giving an example there of Botswana, where I'm coming from, where there's very good discussion at the government level to digitally transform the way government works. And that has got implications on the education and research side of things as well. There's a dedicated team under the Smart Botswana project that the government is looking for digital transformation. That will also look at how do we effect digital transformation in the research, science, and technology space. It is through that project that the Botswana National Education Research Network was conceived and supported, because now therein the government is already seeing value in engaging in institutions and elevating their progress through the NRED. And I wanted to share this with you so that maybe we can see, as an African continent, possibly look at what governments are doing and try to piggyback to advance our agenda. A strategy was developed for Botswana, and I'm just sharing that with you there in order to provide a basis for us doing the Botswana. And the focus areas were expanded, and a governance structure was also expanded. You can see there that the governance of our Botswana is through a society that is obviously driven by its membership, but it's also got linkages to the government entities through the permanent secretary and the ministry, so that therein there is good support in terms of government. And of course, there's been some good progress to date. I wanted to share that today because I can use this presentation to also make country updates for Botswana. Good progress we made, and we've engaged with the parastatal Botswana fiber network, which is the parastatal for rolling out fiber across Botswana. We say we're not going to be doing things from scratch. We're going to be leveraging what Botswana has already in terms of capacity. And Bofinet has fortunately listened to the plea and is engaging with the Botswana to try to provide that connectivity, at least in the time being. Long term, of course, Botswana will have its own network, but for the time being, you'll see that Botswana is working with Bofinet to provide the connectivity for institutions. You'll see that at the back end, Bofinet is also developing a national data center, and they invited us as Botswana to come and say, what do we need a data center? How can we use a data center? And you can imagine for the advanced NREN services, advanced data services for open science, is goes without saying that those institutional data repositories that we all know we need could also be hosted in these national data centers, because it's very expensive to run and maintain institutional data centers. So going forward, it could be that there's potential for leveraging this national data center in Botswana for science. I have to mention the Africa Connect 3 project. Botswana was one of those countries that did not have an NREN, and we are in line to benefit from Africa Connect next year. We've already engaging Africa Connect through UbuntuNet to pay the necessary fees to allow us to accrue value from Africa Connect 3 project. You'll be aware that the Africa Connect 3 project is taking the work done by Africa Connect 1 and Africa Connect 2 to another level. And you will see that there are also advanced services that are also being looked at. There's also the issue of digital transformation and research that is also going to be addressed. I'm not going to be spending too much time on what has been done already with Botswana regarding baseline work for connectivity, but already there's been a value proposition to institutions to show them that it's better to be a collective in terms of procuring bandwidth. The other very important update, colleagues, that I wanted to emphasize is that now that we are looking at these open science platforms with all our data and all our collaborative engagements, we are looking at the infrastructure that Dr. Sithole is talking about. How do we ensure integrity of these platforms to make sure that we are safe, to make sure that only those who can access what they can access they are given the necessary access? The issue of cybersecurity is critical, and member states in Sadc are engaging, as you can imagine, through the Sadc model laws on cybersecurity, but member states also need to develop their strategy. I'm glad to say that Botswana has effected the strategy that was approved in 2022 and is being implemented. And one of the main objectives of that strategy should be addressed by universities and educational institutions. The issue of developing capacity, the issue of training, the issue of cybersecurity awareness, the issue of R&D in cybersecurity is critical. Of course, at a national level, the issue of sets in terms of computer emergency response teams, the issue of achieving security and national resilience is critical. But I wanted to highlight those that are pertinent, obviously, to universities. And for us as University of Botswana, we are very, very keen, and we've been tasked, like all the other universities, to implementing the necessary pillars, the 3 pillars I talked about: awareness, research, and capacity building. And we think this is very critical. And I wanted today in this forum to share with member states and institutions that are here that there's a potential for us to work together as a region to make sure that what we are doing in one country can be replicated in another country. The partnerships that we're making can also be harnessed and leveraged by other member states. To that end, we have a very good model that we are trying to effect to develop centers of excellence, including at the university. We are making partnerships with companies like P to develop these centers of excellence. As you can see there, the pillars of it are very important, ranging from education through innovation and to value-added services. And we're hoping that through this center of excellence, we could obviously provide the national capacity building at a level that is required. And of course, the curricula for such training is critical, and we're engaging with these partners to make sure that we look at what can be taught using cloud platforms. Who knows? In the future, the cloud platforms that Dr. Sithole is talking about in Africa could be used for this training. These partners can come to us and we can say, look, instead of using AWS, let's come and use the African Open Science Platforms Research Cloud, or let's come and use the Sadc CI's Research Cloud for training. And here are the member states and their institutions that can already benefit from this. So really, this is very, very exciting development that we wanted to share today with the colleagues and member states, and see going forward if there's a way we can engage to replicate and make this impactful. Finally, colleagues, I have some news. We've been engaging in the issue of data for past couple of years. As Botswana, as Sadc, you'll recall that we hosted the 2nd International Data Week Conference and the SciDataCon conference in 2018. That brought a spotlight to the Africa and to the region and to Botswana regarding the issue of data. And you'll recall that in the previous meetings of this forum, we set up an expert working group as Sadc regarding various areas, including on data. And colleagues like Dr. Masuzane have been instrumental in engaging and advancing the dialogue around data, both nationally and in the region. And she is now representing us at an international level through the International Science Council's Committee on Data as one of the executive members. And we believe such an involvement of the region and countries through herself and others provides us with a very, very good opportunity to engage. Chairman, thanks you for giving me the latitude to talk at length. But those are the thoughts and the updates that I wish to make, especially with the African Open Science Platform, because going forward, it's going to need all hands on deck. Member states must engage in this, if only because they see value in engaging collaboratively with other member states at a continental level. The issue of making the platform sustainable, the issue of making the platform truly Pan-African will depend on our engagement and our will to see it through. With those few remarks, Chairperson, I would like to stop there and thank you for your indulgence.
Many thanks, Dr. Siamo Moshegwa, for such an articulation of Pan-African spirit, which we have heard you, and you set off with so-called tantalizing argument or our own. You spoke of our own that this could be a tantalizing argument. You raised the need for open science, which is UNESCO, Hurubaro message, but also which links very well to Sadc decisions regarding open education management information systems, ENIS, and all related aspects, including open workflows and open data. And I think these are issues of great interest. I like to where you talked of fair data and unpacked fair being findable, accessible, interoperable, but also reusable, and that he said that data must be reusable. These were very strong, candid arguments. You brought in the context where the Academy of Sciences South Africa were able to advise government on certain things. This is very important, but particularly also where you hinted on IKS, indigenous knowledge sharing, but also traditional cultural expressions, repeating or orchestrating the Swakopmund protocol or treaty from Namibia a long time back, that indeed as Africans, Pan-Africanists, we should be able to have solutions within our own context, conceptualized and imagined by ourselves for sustainable development. As you concluded, you hinted that member states need to invest in science, research and development. And when I checked the World Bank, as we were speaking on that, I checked the World Bank data regarding the research and development expenditure as a percentage of GDP, and found that most of the Sadc member states have no data on our World Bank repository, no data, updated data. South Africa is at 0.83. The requirement is that member states have at least 1%, and only the developed countries have exceeded 1% percentage of GDP on as expenditure on research and development. So we are doing very badly. A few countries have 0.3, 0.02, but others completely have non-existent, meaning that there's no research almost taking place or research investment in that regard. And then you called upon all of us to come up to reflect on your model for centers of excellence, centers of specialization, which is indeed within the Sadc, compendium and the strategy, and that we can actually, have, consolidated, trainings, educations, and related aspects. And looking forward to the open stack by Sithole, but also the African Open Science Platform by yourself, Siamo Moshegwa. I think this is the spirit that will take us to what we want to be, the Africa that we want and the growth that we want. I requested on the messages, if there are any comments or questions, to see hands raised. I see congratulations to Audrey, congratulations, being nominated. I see congratulations. But I don't see any questions. Are we speaking the same language? I don't see hands up, ladies and gentlemen. Why are we so mum and mute? I am giving 2 minutes for a critical intervention. Otherwise, we can't go for tea. I will extend it to 12 minutes if we can't intervene. I see Happy Sithole. Your hand is up. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. I was looking for the button that has to help me raise the hand. So It was not there, so I thought I will raise it physically. But I would like to really thank Dr. Motshekga for giving this comprehensive overview of what we need to do overall as the continent. And I think the message is very clear that with the basics that we have, this grand vision is visible. I just wanted to add that on top of what Dr. Motshekga is talking about now, the world is already moving. We are participating now on what we call the Global Open Science Cloud. So already the world is looking at linking up with Africa and to be able to provide these platforms that we can be able to share the data. So I think, Dr. Motshekga, what you are mentioning, we don't have much time. The world is waiting for us. We have to get our house in order. So this is one of the things that we will need to see, Chairperson, under your leadership, that you help us fast track these initiatives. Because when we have to link up with the rest of the world and we don't have all our systems in order, then that might not look nice. So we're looking forward to our leadership, Chairperson, to take us through this so that we can be able to fast track this initiative. Thanks, Dr. Motshekga. And by the way, really, congratulations to Dr. Masizane. We had an on-site event, then we will be having coffee with her later tonight. So unfortunately, we'll have it virtually.
Thank you, Dr. Sithole, for those remarks. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is it. I think we need to move forward, but also making sure that we do not simply generate the data and offload to external clouds or exploiters. We want to have full autonomy of the data that is African and for the benefit of Africans before we invited to pay huge sums of the same. Any comments or questions? Otherwise, I see that
we've got Zambia. We've got Zambia.
Oh,
Mr.
Zambia.
Chair. Zambia,
yes,
and
yes.
also Malawi, Mr. Chair.
Okay, yeah. So I recognize Zambia, but also then after that Malawi. Thank you, Anneline.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Tiamo. 2 weeks ago, he was here in Zambia. We had a good time. And this is just a compliment. Just to say, I love his love for open science. He loves it so much. I hope we can have a segment on open science where he could talk. He could be given more time to stimulate appetite for researchers within our Sadc community to contribute a lot on that one, because I see and I feel within me that Dr. Tiamo is a good ambassador or high commissioner for open science. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Steen. Thank you for Zambia. It was wonderful engaging there last 2 weeks. Thank you very much. And
thank you,
Chairperson, I have to say, following the UbuntuNet Connect conference held in Zambia, the UbuntuNet Alliance is keen for Botswana to host the 2022 UbuntuNet Connect conference. Therein, Chairperson, we will have an opportunity to develop our additional themes. So the thinking is around maybe putting in elements of digital transformation as one of the main themes, the issue of open science as maybe a second theme, and the issue of security, cybersecurity, as a third theme. This will be a Pan-African conference hosted in Southern Africa. So maybe in each organization, the committee that will be formed to run it could be members from the Sadc, and we'll be communicating that through you, Chair, to see if we can have a truly Southern African conference advancing issues that the Sadc expert working group is looking at. Thank you, Chair.
Looking forward to that. Thank you, Motshekga, and Zambia also, and Africa Connect 3 coming to Botswana. Now I invite Malawi to comment, and then we have 2 minutes before 10:30. Over to you, Malawi.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dr. Motsekwa and Dr. Sithole. Both of you have given very informative and comprehensive progress report, and we note that at the national level, I think SADC member states are doing a lot. Maybe mine is a comment, Chair, to say maybe we need to take this up at regional level so that we raise our ambition to the top tier level of the technology. I'll give an example of the ambition that Dr. Sithole mentioned of taking HPC to 10 petaflops. I think as a region, maybe we could aim higher. I don't know, at national level, maybe it's difficult, but as a block, maybe we could aim higher, because currently the best machine is at 442, and people are already talking about 1,000 petaflops. So if we are targeting 10, then still more as an African bloc, maybe we could be lagging behind. I don't know, I just want to stimulate those thoughts within the participants here. Coming to Dr. Motsekwa, it's indeed, he mentioned of the importance of cybersecurity, and related to cybersecurity, we have a quantum computing technology that is being experimented or being developed by leading states. I don't know what our region is doing, because that has serious consequences on the cybersecurity that we're mentioning up. As a region, and we take a strategic direction and maybe leapfrog our ambition to that level. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Michael Zimba. I will invite both speakers, but briefly, first of all, with Dr. Sithole to comment on the at least minimum, petaflops for as capacity for the HPCs we're talking at the cluster that we are building at national level. What should be our minimum? I think we need to be able to define minimum, but also at the regional level, what would be our minimum that we're looking forward to. So we synchronize with what the continental and global pathways are. And then ultimately, I will request Dr. Tiamo to also just give a comment on that, just briefly. But also we appreciate South Africa, we appreciate Botswana that you have already given your national, updates, which was part of the program. We appreciate that. And I'm sure that the slides also be shared by Anneline ultimately afterwards. Over to you, and then we conclude, we go for break, which will be 20 minutes.
Yeah, maybe if I can just comment on that question, Chairperson, is that indeed we have to aim high when it comes to the computing capability. As I said, the computing capability is mainly the sign of the competitiveness of the nations. So the higher we aim, the better. You will realize that at the moment, the chase has been to the 1,000 petaflops, which is 1 exaflop. And in Africa, we have got a program that requires that computing capability. So as a region, we should have an exaflop machine, but a number of questions will come. Do we have the financial muscles? Do we have the necessary support? Because the square kilometer array on itself has got 7 of the member states participating in there, and that will require an exaflop machine. So looking at this is that the world is already chasing. It has been the chase between the US, the East, and by the way, Michael, the 1 exaflop has already been reached. There are 2 machines that are operating in China, and they decided they're not going to put them on the top 500. And because mainly I think, and we asked one of the market analysts yesterday, it might have been driven by this tussle between America and China, and they thought, why should they be on a top 500? What does it mean to them? So this has already been reached, and you can be able to see. So I would say our target should be the use of these HPC systems. So we should grow organically. So at the moment, let's put the minimum that we have, and let's demonstrate that we can use it, because that writes our business plan. As the high performance computing community say, look at it is being used, it's used effectively, and let's move to the next level. And with that, it does not take us much to sit around that political table to request Botswana to sell 1 or 2 diamonds and buy us an exaflop machine. So I think our duty is to work on the science, the outputs, and with the little that we have, let's keep on progressing and show excellence in utilization and show also impact. That should be our strategy. But where we need to aim, the bar has been set. We need an exaflop machine tomorrow because astronomy already requires it. And we have seen that whatever capacity that we put, utilization is uptake. I have indicated that we have got a 1 petaflop machine, and it is being used 100% by the South African and Sadc member states. So tomorrow, if we put 10 petaflop, my colleagues will tell you, the people are hungry for the processing that will be used. So all the time, what we push for the researchers is that whatever that you have used, show us what you have done. Show us that you produce students. Show us that you're doing good science that has got impact. But also, as we said, one of the things that we need to be able to show, bring in industry also. Let's show that there's impact also on the economy, because if the industry pay revenue, then the government will be able to give us a share of that. So I think those are the big tasks that are in front of us, and we can go as high as we can. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sithole, Dr. Sithole. Over to you, Dr. Moshegwa.
I think Dr. Sithole has summed it up eloquently, Chair. The issue of utilization of this resource, the issue of the platform we just talked about, and showcasing that we can use this platform to solve problems that our leaders want solved, our society wants solved. So I think it remains for us to engage our governments. The issue of science communication for both policy and public purposes is very critical. Scientists like ourselves must leave their labs and also engage decision makers to provide the value propositions necessary. Let's put on the suits and go to the meetings and engage ministers and say, look, regarding this vision that the country has set, this is how science can affect your vision, and this is how, as scientists, you can do it. You find that there is already a closeness if you can do that. Let's show them that the pristine Okavango Delta that is in my background, that is the World Heritage Site that Botswana hosts for the whole world. That through science, maybe through Earth observation, we could use satellite imagery to monitor its health. And for us to analyze these images in real time, we need HPC. And who knows what support you get. So I think these are the conversations that we must have and encourage our governments to invest a little bit more in R&D, given that we all know that science can affect some of these things. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much. You've been wonderful panelists. I appreciate and thank you, Dr. Tiamo, Dr. Happy Sithole, Anneline Morgan, and I give it over to Anneline to advise us. How many minutes can you give us for tea break? Can we come back at 11 or area? It's 23 before 11. Anneline.
Thank you, Chair. I think we can come back earlier because I'm happy to say that we've got our other 2 speakers. Dr. Mactar has joined us from UNECA, that's the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and also Professor Martin Oosthuizen has also joined us from the Southern African Universities Association, Regional University Association. So we've got all our speakers. So because we still have a number of items to cover on the program, I'll ask that Chair, we take maybe just 15 minutes It's 10:37 now. So we could come back maybe at 10:45. Is that fine?
Granted, 10:45 we'll be back here and we shall begin by who? Shall we come back to Dr. Mactar Seck, or we go to Dr. Mary Jane Bopape, then Prof. Martin or Suzanne, or how do we, so we can we take Dr. Mactar Seck from UNECA first?
Yeah, I think we're still on track with our program, so we can take Dr. Mactar. We'll move, yeah, the Sadc, I was supposed to give an update on the Sadc ICT Center of Excellence, but I can do that later after lunch. That's not a problem.
Okay.
I'll do it after the member states update, yeah. So we can take Dr. Mactar when we come back from tea, then have some questions, and then we'll take Dr. Mary Jane, and then after Professor Martin. So we can still follow our program, yeah, we're still on track.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, and enjoy your tea, virtual coffee, and everything else. We'll be back at 10:45 on dot. 6 more minutes to go. Over.